So the first thing to consider when telling your children about divorce is really how old are they and what can they understand and what can't they understand. So if you're talking to very young children, what you want to first think about is what would matter the most to them. Kids tend to be very focused on themselves, so you want to address the kind of things that are important to them. Where are they going to live? Who are they going to live with? Who will be when? Who's going to pick them up from school? Will they have to change schools? Issues like that. What else do you think comes to mind?
I think that one of the mistakes that parents make is telling children before the children are ready or before they have the answers to some of the questions kids want to know, as Julie said. Will we have to leave our friends? Will we have to change our schools? If parents have answers to some of those questions, it can be reassuring. I think another thing that's really important is for parents to talk to children together and to respect that children may well not, we wouldn't expect them to, they're not going to respond well to the information, so they may run off, they may hide, and I think it's important for parents to respect that.
The other focus that it's important is to talk about how well they're going to do for their children. That the important thing is that we can be the best mom and dad for you if we're separate and not wasting all of our energy fighting with each other. So this isn't something that is being done to you as a bad thing. We're doing this because we care about you so much that we want to do what's best. And unfortunately, it looks like this. And acknowledge that that may be not what the child wants, but that this still can be a good thing for them if presented that way.
Children often, in the early stages of hearing about a divorce, they lose a little bit of trust in both parents, because parents have always represented, we're here for you, we're a family. And not that divorce always comes out of the blue for children, but it often does, and they don't see it coming, and so it can be very disturbing, destabilizing for them.
And this is probably especially true for younger children because they may really not know what divorce is, and you may have to start from the very beginning, like mommy and daddy aren't going to be friends anymore and we're going to live in different houses, versus if you're talking to a teenager or an older child who may have friends and who has faced divorce in their social environment more, it may be easier to talk to them. But there you have to be very careful not to over disclose, right? So you don't want to tell them every fight you and their other parent has ever had. What you want to talk about is still what's important to them, why this is going to help the family unit, but do tell them things they need to know. For example, same as about what's going to happen with a move if they are moving, and expect even more resistance and more anger and being more vocal on those topics. Is that your experience?
Little kids. Little kids sometimes are prone to thinking that it has something to do with them. If they were good enough, perhaps this wouldn't be happening. Teenagers, very different. Teenagers want to know, how's this going to affect me? Mm-hmm. And teenagers are usually not blindsided by it because they're attuned to relationships.
I think there also parents have to be careful if the teenager's trying to pick sides, that the parents are on the same page, which is why it's so important, like Bill said, to do this together. Because if the teenager should get the sense that we're still mom and dad and we're still doing what needs to be done, you don't get to decide how this is going to play out, no matter how many tantrums you throw or who you decide to side with. Now you decide, well, this is all mom's fault and I'm going to only think that dad is right. You want to discourage that as a family unit.
Children often feel shame when they find out. They worry about telling their friends, or how will their friends know. And so if parents haven't even thought about how are we going to let our friends know, they're not well positioned to help their kids figure and negotiate their way through that particular question.
And you always want to leave the door open. It's okay to ask anything you need to ask. As much as parents may be uncomfortable having those conversations or really confronting things they would prefer not to talk about, like how are we going to tell our entire social circle? If the teenager needs to talk about that, that's what they need to talk about. And it doesn't have to be one conversation that covers everything. This is a process, and you will talk about the things you need to talk about as the process develops. And you may really not know everything, but you do want to have something. You don't want to tell them we're splitting up and it's all up in the air and we'll figure it out as we go along, because that feels really threatening and scary, and really what was the purpose of that, right? That's often for the parents themselves and not really for the benefit of the child.
And it doesn't always come out straight in that moment. Parents like to think that we're going to tell the kids and that we'll be through it. In many ways, it's kind of the beginning almost of the rest of their lives, because that moment really marks a change in the way that they're going to experience family life. And when parents do it together and they can communicate through their actions, through their verbal behavior, their nonverbal behavior, what they say, how they act, if they can communicate that we can do this together, it's very reassuring to children because they're still a family. They still understand that they're going to be a family.
This is, of course, a really broad topic, and if we can help with anything else, please click on the link below to find out how we can help.